Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of material and distill it into the surprising, essential nuggets you need to be truly well-informed. Today, we're embarking on a unique deep dive, venturing into ancient philosophy. Specifically, we're cracking open the very first book of Plato's Republic. Now, don't let ancient philosophy conjure images of dusty tomes. This isn't a textbook. Instead, think of it as a lively, unscripted conversation that, even though it happened thousands of years ago, feels incredibly fresh and relevant today.
That's absolutely right. Our mission for this deep dive is to unpack the very first discussions and evolving definitions of justice as laid out in the Republic. It's truly a shortcut to understanding some foundational ideas that have shaped so much of Western thought. And you might be surprised as we go along by how many unexpected twists and turns the argument takes, and honestly, how relatable the human elements of this ancient dialogue still are.
Right. So imagine this scene. Socrates and his companion Glaucon are leaving a vibrant festival in the Piraeus that's a bustling port city near Athens. They've just offered prayers and enjoyed a truly fantastic Thracian procession, complete with a new, exciting torch race on horseback. But as they're heading back to the city, they're playfully intercepted by Polemarchus and his friends, who quite insistently persuade them to stay. This leads them to the home of Polemarchus' father, a venerable old man named Cephalus. When they arrive at Cephalus' house, there's such a warm, welcoming atmosphere. Cephalus himself, an older man, is seated on a cushioned chair, garlanded from a sacrifice he'd just offered. It's clear Socrates hasn't seen him in a while, and he seems much aged. Socrates, with that characteristic curiosity of his, immediately asks Cephalus if life actually gets harder at the end. But Cephalus offers a surprisingly positive take. What do you make of his initial thoughts on old age?
It's striking because he doesn't blame age itself. He argues it's not the years, but a person's character and temper that truly determine their experience of growing old. He even shares this wonderful anecdote about the aged poet Sophocles. Socrates apparently asked Sophocles how love suited with age, essentially asking, "Are you still feeling those youthful passions?" And Sophocles' reply was, "Peace, most gladly have I escaped the thing of which you speak. I feel as if I had escaped from a mad and furious master." This really challenges the common perception that old age is just a period of decline. Cephalus found calm and freedom, a liberation from the many passions of youth, which is a powerful insight.
So Socrates, ever the probe, zeroes in on that. He doesn't just let it sit there. He asks, is it really your character, Cephalus, or is it your wealth that makes old age so easy for you? It's such a classic Socratic move, isn't it? Cutting right to the perceived heart of the matter.
Exactly. And Cephalus' response is wonderfully nuanced. He uses the anecdote of Themistocles and the Seriphian. Themistocles was told he was famous only because he was an Athenian, and he retorted, "If you had been a native of my country, or I of yours, neither of us would have been famous." Cephalus applies this by acknowledging that while wealth does help avoid certain anxieties, like being able to pay off debts, it absolutely cannot guarantee peace for a bad person. Conversely, poverty won't prevent a good person from finding old age burdensome. So wealth helps, but character remains foundational.
Yeah, helpful but not sufficient. And for Cephalus, the greatest blessing from his wealth is precisely this peace of mind as he nears death. It means having no debts, whether to men or gods, and no fear of punishment for past wrongs. He even quotes the poet Pindar, who speaks of sweet hope as the kind nurse of old age for the just and holy. It's a very specific kind of comfort, isn't it? The comfort of a clear conscience.
It really is. It sets the stage perfectly because it's from this discussion of a clear conscience that Socrates smoothly pivots. He asks Cephalus for his simple definition of justice, almost as an aside.
And Cephalus, without much hesitation, offers what seems like a straightforward answer. To speak the truth and to pay your debts. Sounds pretty solid, right?
On the surface, yes. But then Socrates, with a classic thought experiment, immediately introduces a wrinkle. He asks, what if a friend, in his right mind, deposits weapons with you, but then asks for them back when he is mad? Should you give them back? And Cephalus, without missing a beat, readily agrees that this would be wrong. So, just like that, the simple definition of speaking the truth and paying debts isn't always just. It's a brilliant, immediate deconstruction.
And it's at this moment, seeing his simple definition crumble, that Cephalus makes his graceful exit. He lets out a laugh and quite literally hands the argument over to his son, Polemarchus, as his heir to the discussion, saying he has to go look after the sacrifices. It's such a delightful, almost comedic passing of the philosophical torch. So Polemarchus steps right into the fray, championing the poet Simonides' definition of justice as repayment of debt, but he immediately clarifies it, explaining it means doing good to friends and harm to enemies. It's a much more active and perhaps more dangerous definition, don't you think?
Absolutely. And it's fascinating how Socrates immediately applies his signature method of questioning here, using analogies to systematically break down the concept. He asks, what does medicine give and to whom?
Right.
Drugs and meat to bodies. What about cookery, seasoning to food? So he asks, what does justice give? And Polemarchus, following the pattern, says good to friends and evil to enemies. It seems logical within that framework.
But then Socrates cleverly tests this definition in various scenarios. Is a just man more useful in sickness than a physician, or on a voyage than a pilot? Polemarchus, to his credit, honestly agrees that the physician and pilot are clearly better in those specific instances. He's not trying to twist the answer.
No, he's trying to be consistent.
But Socrates pushes it further into peacetime. If justice is for war, is it useless in peace? Polemarchus disagrees, saying it's useful in contracts. But Socrates presses on. Is a just man a better partner in drafts than a skilled player? Or in building than a builder? Polemarchus concedes quite the reverse. Socrates is showing that justice, under this definition, seems to be a very limited niche skill. And this leads to a real paradox that Socrates unearths. He asks, when is the just man the best partner for money? Polemarchus answers, when you want a deposit to be kept safely. In other words, when the money isn't wanted but just left to lie. This leads to the striking inference. Justice is useful when money is useless. It's almost as if Socrates is subtly mocking the definition, suggesting that if this is justice, it's a pretty passive, almost useless virtue itself, isn't it?
Precisely. It sets up that profound tension. Is justice truly just if its highest function is inaction? This isn't just a clever wordplay. It's an underlying critique of a very superficial understanding of what goodness truly entails. And then Socrates drops a real bombshell, the good keeper, good thief argument. He contends that one who is best at guarding something is also best at stealing it. Therefore, if a just man is good at keeping money, he is good at stealing it, implying the just man has turned out to be a thief. He even connects this to the Homeric reference of Autolycus, Odysseus' maternal grandfather, famed for theft and perjury.
I can just imagine Polemarchus's face when Socrates makes that connection. It's such a radical implication. He immediately recoils, no, certainly not that. Do you think he genuinely hadn't seen that coming, or was he just caught off guard by the logical consequence of his own definition?
I think it's the shock of the logical conclusion. He probably had an intuitive common sense idea of justice that Socrates just systematically dismantled. It really highlights how easily our everyday definitions can crumble under rigorous scrutiny.
So Socrates pushes on. He asks, what if people err about who is truly good or evil? This means if justice is doing good to friends and harm to enemies, you might end up harming good people who just seem evil and helping bad ones who seem good. And Polemarchus immediately admits this would be immoral.
Right. So Polemarchus agrees to refine his definition. A true friend is one who is good, not just seems good. And a true enemy is one who is evil. Thus, justice is doing good to truly good friends and harm to truly evil enemies. Seems like a tighter, more ethical definition, doesn't it?
It does. But then Socrates delivers what I think is his final devastating blow to this definition with a very simple question. Can a just person injure anyone at all?
The brilliance of Socrates' reasoning here lies in the analogy of deterioration. He argues that when horses are injured, they are made worse in their good qualities of horses. Similarly, he contends, men who are injured are made worse in their proper virtue of man, which Socrates identifies as justice. Therefore, injuring someone makes them unjust.
I see. And he drives home the point with such elegant simplicity. A musician cannot, by their art, make someone unmusical. A horseman cannot make someone a bad horseman. So can the good make people bad? Can heat produce cold? Impossible. Since the just is good, the just cannot injure anyone. It completely demolishes the idea of harming enemies as a part of justice.
Yeah, the conclusion is powerful and undeniable. To injure a friend or anyone else is not the act of a just man, but of the opposite, who is the unjust. Polemarchus fully concedes, agreeing that the idea of harming enemies stems from powerful, self-interested figures, not wise men. It's a significant moment of intellectual defeat for him.
But just as Socrates lands that final blow on Polemarchus's refined definition, the whole discussion is suddenly shattered by this explosive character, Thrasymachus. You can almost feel the tension building before he just erupts, like a wild beast, scolding Socrates and the others for their folly and calling them silly billies, arguing. What a way to make an entrance.
Totally changes the vibe. Thrasymachus isn't interested in the polite, logical dance that Socrates favors. He's impatient, direct, and utterly dismissive of what he considers Socratic irony. He doesn't want long, winding questions. He wants to lay down the law, figuratively speaking, and get to the real truth.
And he wastes no time in presenting his bold and, I would say, quite radical definition. Justice is nothing else than the interest of the stronger. Talk about cutting to the chase.
His rationale is stark and pragmatic. He argues that different forms of government tyrannies, democracies, aristocracies make laws in their own interest. These laws are then enforced as justice upon their subjects. Since the government is the stronger power, it follows that justice universally serves the interest of the stronger. It's a very cynical, power-based view of law and order.
Wow. Okay, so that's direct. And Socrates, ever the playful provocateur, responds with an almost absurd initial challenge. He asks, does this mean that because Polydamas the Pancratiast, a kind of ancient mixed martial artist, for those wondering, is stronger than we are, and finds the eating of beef conducive to his bodily strength, that to eat beef is therefore equally for our good who are weaker than he is, and right and just for us? It's a classic move to ensure he fully understands Thrasymachus' precise meaning before diving into a full refutation.
Exactly. And Socrates' first main refutation then comes by questioning the infallibility of rulers. He asks Thrasymachus, are rulers absolutely infallible? Thrasymachus has to admit, no, they err. So, if they make laws against their own interest, and subjects obey those laws, which is justice, according to Thrasymachus, then justice sometimes involves acting against the interest of the stronger. That's a direct contradiction of Thrasymachus' original claim.
And you even have Cleitophon, one of Thrasymachus' followers, trying to jump in and defend him by interjecting that Thrasymachus meant what the stronger thought to be his interest. It's an interesting attempt to rescue the definition, but Thrasymachus isn't having it.
No, Thrasymachus comes back, doubling down on his original point. He asserts that in the strict sense, a true ruler, like a true physician or arithmetician, does not err insofar as they are truly skilled. When they err, their skill fails them. Therefore, a true ruler always commands what is in his own interest, making justice always the interest of the stronger. It raises an important question for us. What defines a true practitioner of any art or skill?
And this is where Socrates truly uses Thrasymachus' own strict sense definition against him. He brilliantly returns to those analogies of arts and professions.
What's striking here is Socrates' insight into the purpose of an art. The true physician's purpose is to heal the sick, not to make money from them. The true pilot's purpose is to guide sailors safely, not merely to sail or gain personal advantage. The essence of any art, Socrates argues, is to perfect its subject.
Right. Here's Socrates' crucial point. The interest of any art, whether it's medicine or horsemanship, is the perfection of its subject matter, the body, the horse, not the art itself or the artist. It's about serving what's beneath them, isn't it?
Exactly. The deduction then becomes clear. Since arts and rulers are superiors, they do not consider their own interest, but the interest of their subjects who are weaker. A true ruler, like a true artist, provides for the good of those under their care. They are, in a sense, self-sacrificing for the benefit of their subjects.
And you can practically feel Thrasymachus' reluctant but ultimate agreement as he concedes that his definition of justice has been completely upset. It's a significant moment in the dialogue, a clear win for Socrates in that specific argument. But Thrasymachus isn't giving up just yet. Instead of conceding directly, he dismisses Socrates with an insult about needing a nurse, then pivots and shifts his argument completely. It's almost like he's saying, fine, you win on that point, but I've got a whole new, even more cynical attack.
His new, more cynical claim is that justice is another's good. It serves the interest of the stronger ruler and inevitably leads to the loss of the subject. Injustice, on the other hand, is a person's own profit and interest. It's a bold claim. Injustice isn't just profitable, it's the only truly self-interested rational path.
And he backs this up with some pretty compelling real-world examples of injustice being more profitable. In private contracts, the unjust partner always comes out ahead. In dealings with the state, like income tax, the just pay more while the unjust pay less on the same amount of income. And in public office, just neglect their affairs, suffer losses, and are disliked for refusing to act unlawfully, while the unjust gain immensely. It's a very persuasive, if bleak, picture he paints.
And what truly defines Thrasymachus' argument here is his ultimate example, tyranny. He argues that large-scale injustice, like a tyrant seizing everything by fraud and force, is actually praised, and the tyrant is called happy and blessed. Meanwhile, small-scale thieves are punished. His chilling conclusion is that people condemn injustice out of fear of being its victims, not from some inherent morality. It completely removes any moral foundation for justice.
He truly emphasizes this conclusion. Injustice, on a sufficient scale, has more strength and freedom and mastery than justice. It's a really provocative challenge, suggesting that power justifies everything. Now, despite Thrasymachus' powerful, cynical speech, neither Socrates nor Glaucon are convinced. The stakes are clearly raised now. Which life is truly more advantageous? Is it the just life or the unjust life?
This is where Socrates' next challenge to Thrasymachus becomes profound. Is injustice truly wisdom and virtue, and justice simplicity and vice, as Thrasymachus now claims? This isn't just about what's profitable. It raises an important question about the very nature of human excellence and what it means to be good or wise.
Socrates then unpacks his brilliant like and unlike argument. He contends that a just man seeks to gain advantage over the unjust, his unlike, but not over another just man, his like. An unjust man, however, seeks to gain advantage over everyone, both the just and the unjust, his like and his unlike. It's a subtle but powerful distinction.
And he connects this back to the skilled arts. A truly wise musician or physician desires to perform correctly and not to exceed other wise musicians or physicians in skill. An ignorant person, however, seeks to exceed everyone, regardless of skill. The logical conclusion is that the just is like the wise and good. The unjust is like the evil and ignorant.
And in a rare moment, Thrasymachus, visibly sweating, actually blushes and concedes this point. You can almost feel the intellectual pressure he's under. It's a huge victory for Socrates, proving that injustice is not wisdom.
Right. With that established, Socrates shifts to the question of strength. If injustice is ignorance, can it truly be stronger than justice, which is wisdom? Socrates argues that injustice inherently creates division, hatred, and fighting. It's an internal, self-destructive force.
He then explores the implications. Think about it. A state, an army, or even a band of robbers cannot function if they constantly injure each other. Even in villainy, some remnant of justice is required for common action. If everyone is out for themselves, the group collapses. And even within a single person, injustice leads to internal conflict and renders them incapable of action.
The takeaway here is profound. Injustice, far from being strong, actually weakens and divides, while justice creates harmony and enables effective, unified action. It's a counterintuitive point, especially when you consider how often powerful, unjust figures seem to dominate. But Socrates is arguing about the inherent nature of these qualities.
And this brings us to the ultimate, final question of Book 1. Is the life of the just truly happier and more advantageous than that of the unjust? It's the core of the whole debate, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And Socrates introduces a core philosophical concept here. The end or unique function something performs, like the eye for seeing or a pruning hook for cutting vines. And then he defines excellence as the virtue that allows something to perform its end well, like sight for the eye. It's a simple, elegant framework.
And then he applies this directly to the human soul. He argues that the soul's end is to superintend, to command, to deliberate, and crucially, to live. And the soul's excellence, he argues, is justice. It's the virtue that allows the soul to perform its function well.
So the argument logically follows. If the soul is deprived of its excellence justice, it cannot fulfill its ends. An unjust soul, therefore, will rule poorly and live ill. A just soul, possessing its excellence, will rule well and live well. It's a powerful and direct link between justice and a flourishing life.
And the ultimate conclusion for Thrasymachus is delivered. He who lives well is blessed and happiness is profitable. Therefore, injustice can never be more profitable than justice. And with that, Thrasymachus is finally silenced and gentle. It's quite a transformation from the roaring beast at the beginning. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into Plato's first pass at justice, it's truly fascinating to consider Socrates' own closing reflection from the dialogue. Despite the rigorous argument and Thrasymachus' complete concessions, Socrates admits he still hasn't truly defined what justice is. He says he feels like an epicurus snatching a taste of every dish, without fully savoring anyone.
Yeah, what's striking here is that even after this intense philosophical battle, Socrates concludes that he still doesn't know what justice is. This highlights that for Socrates, and indeed for all of us, the pursuit of understanding is often more important than immediate or definitive answers. This opening book lays the groundwork for the rest of Plato's Republic, which continues this quest for understanding justice in far greater depth.
And that's the true beauty of it, isn't it? Given all these surprising turns in argument, from paying debts to helping friends and harming enemies to the interest of the stronger, and finally to the soul's excellence. What new questions does this deep dive raise for you about the nature of justice, or what truly makes a life advantageous? It's a journey, not just a destination, and it starts right here